One, two, one, two, three, four.
Welcome back to another Warships Wednesday, and ultimately we're going to try a new series called How to Suck Less Episode 1. We're going to dive right into the HE versus AP. We're going to use a Cleveland versus all four different kinds of ship, a carrier, a cruiser, a battleship, and a destroyer, starting out with the destroyer at a armor-piercing round. Now if you watch these shots go in, first and foremost, these shots will go through the hole, that indicator that you have in the bottom right corner. That will be your over-penetration. This is why you did very little damage to the destroyer, and you want to load your HE like we have here. The HE is going to incapacitate this person. It's going to do a whole lot more damage, and also set them on fire in the process. Destroyer is very weak overall as far as armor is concerned, which is why the trajectory of the round tends to go through and go through to the other side so quickly. And that's why you want to make sure to have the HE, because you're going to incapacitate them, do more damage. It's good from all angles ultimately. I'm not even showing the front because you're going to get the same results from the front as you will from the sides, just they're a little bit harder to hit if they're angled towards you. Angle does change the effects of the other ships that we'll address later, but right now we're just worried about the effects on the destroyer. If you have it on different areas, if you enter it in towards the front, you're more likely to catch a fire. That indicator right there of the smokestacks, that means that their engines are out. It does not mean that the entire ship is on fire, just that the engine can't work, and you can incapacitate the engine by hitting the main area or even the rudders by attacking the rear. It can change depending on the shoot of the ship, but ultimately for destroyers from a cruiser standpoint and from most standpoints, you're going to want a high explosive round for it. We're going to dive right on over to firing at another cruiser if you're using armor piercing. You see the angle that they have presented?
Denied.
That's what winds up happening. Ultimately, it just sits at an angle, it ricochets all of those, which is what that indicator was.
Nope.
If they set it at that 15-ish degree angle, it's going to continue to do that. That's why we loaded up HE for this next round, so you can see the difference that you're actually going to have here. When you have this person presenting this angle, you want to bring them to the ground, you want to try and incapacitate them. That orange indicator that sits on the bottom right also shows that you're doing good damage from the HE shells, whereas some broke, and that's just the nature of the beast. So I'm going to go ahead and take this ship around to the side so you can see how the difference is if you're shooting at the broadside. The broadside will present something different. With the destroyer, because the armor was so small, it pierces through to the other side unless you have a smaller caliber gun like another destroyer or maybe a British cruiser. But in this case, because the caliber of the gun is the right size, then you're going to do more damage from this end. And here I'm going to point out the different areas that you look for a citadel. The main structure where the ammo is kept, that's the engine room, below the main battery turrets. If you shoot directly down in any of those areas, you're likely to find a citadel because those are important areas of the ship. That's what happened here. It was the main engine room. Now you can change these ammos back and forth just by hitting the button twice automatically, or you can hit it once and then that round will reload as soon as you perform that volley. The next ship that I want to focus on is the New Mexico. This is a American battleship. This one, from an AP standpoint,
Nope.
we have the same problem. It's going to ricochet all of those because the armor is just so strong. The armor piercing will just hit that point. It can't enter into the structure and therefore it can't explode. That's why you're not able to do any damage. So from the high explosive point, you see how all those broke? It didn't cause a large amount of damage, a very small amount. That's what we're looking for. Because if you're aiming towards the top of the superstructure, if you're looking at firing on the deck, that's how you're setting these fires. There's 4 different areas within a ship that you can set fires. I believe it's 3 per destroyer, but in the battleship you have 4 different areas. If you set multiple fires, that's great. If you have one already, don't keep firing at that area. you're just going to try and set a fire in the same place. You can continue to aim at the superstructure, or you can aim throughout the rest of the ship. But here you'll see I demonstrate the approach for the different volleys. I have the 2 highlighted, the AP highlighted. That volley makes it so that this next round automatically loads. So if you need that next set of ammo, and you are just prepared to change your HE to AP, that's what you're going to want to do smoothly so that you are not reloading in front of the enemy. Now the reason I'm firing at this ship from the broadside is that while my guns are smaller, people tend to forget that AP does a hefty amount of damage to a battleship as long as it remains broadside. You can fire up at the top of the structure like I'm about to do here, but it won't do as much damage. See, that's the over-penetration. I do encourage putting on these notifications through the settings, by the way. So you're going to shoot lower in the structure. Because you're hitting the body, you're getting those indicators of actually penetrating, and when they are at a broadside while you want these fires and the fires are tempting, you're ultimately going to do more damage over time doing these shots through an AP at a broadside. If they just continue to ricochet and they continue to break, your caliber might be too small, and it might be time to just stick with HE and hide and hope that they burn through the round and focus on something else. But the AP can still be effective with the battleship. The last thing I'm going to focus on is the aircraft carrier. Aircraft carrier has the weakest, simplest armor out of all of it. And ultimately, if you fire from this angle with AP, you're still going to do damage. I was seeing if I could get a Citadel at that angle, but it didn't seem like it. But you are pretty safe just firing high explosive at an enemy carrier for a couple reasons. One, you are likely to still get a Citadel occasionally, more so than any other ship if you're firing HE at it, and the big appeal to it is that unless they have the commander skill, you can set them on fire and then they are not going to be able to launch any planes or land any planes, and their main course of attack is just completely incapacitated. So as a whole, since you are going to do a great amount of damage to a carrier, it's best to stick with high explosive unless, like the battleship, everything is already on fire and you have the ability to fire from the side, and then that gives you a complete broadside. So we'll switch over to AP to try and demonstrate that here in just a minute. I think I'm trying to get a Citadel with my explosive, and I know I wasn't successful, that's fine. But if we switch over to the armor piercing, then you'll see that it's really easy, really no matter where you hit in the ship, to fire the armor piercing, so that you can get these Citadels on the ship. As a whole, the ship is not difficult to take down, but because it's a global damaging machine, then it winds up being something that you still want to make a priority. So, you can take this ship, take it out, do the best that you can. I know that this is a down and dirty explanation, but for those that don't know how to use high explosive, for those that are new to the game that want that exposure, these are the different ways to use high explosive, armor piercing. There's so much more that comes with it as to what to pick on the angles and what to use for Citadels, but this is a very bare bones start. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Hey!